Hey there, bestie, and welcome to a tier list. Today I am doing a tier list on Gilmore Girls characters. Gilmore Girls is my comfort show. There are a lot of things in Gilmore Girls that needs to be discussed, and there's a lot of problematic things, I would say, in the show, but it's my comfort show, and I've watched it like a million times. That's only a little bit of exaggeration. I really have watched it a ton of times. We're not really gonna get into all the things, but we will be discussing the characters on the list and rating them. And of course, we have to start with the big one. We have Jess, number one. And my team Jess, maybe. Which I feel like is not a favorable thing. So I like Jess a lot. Jess is a little asshole, but that is sort of a product of how he was raised and not having good parents around. His mom was shit to him. But I feel like Jess has amazing character development, and I love Jess so much. I will be putting him on good. I'm not sure. I might change my list around as we go, but we'll see. All right, next up is Emily. Emily is a lot of things. In a lot of ways, she's a very problematic character. I think she's another person that is a product of how she was raised and her generation, which is kind of rough, and it makes it a little hard to judge her fully, but she's like anyone. You have to grow up and become a better person, and she does grow as a person in the show for sure. But she still has a lot of issues, and she wasn't the best parent. I do really like Emily. She's funny as hell, and I think that not always, but a lot of times her intentions were good. All right, next up we have Tristan. So Tristan was someone that was kind of one of Rory's bullies when she first started at Chilton. Another product of how he was raised. I feel like season 1 especially and 2 of Gilmore Girls really goes into characters that are a product of how they were raised. But the thing about Tristan is I think he has the potential to be a better person, as we started to see when he left the show. But he's not a great person for the whole of it, so I'm going to put him in but I do feel like he has potential to grow as a person, and if we would have kept him on the show, I think it would have been interesting to see his development as a person. Mrs. Kim. She definitely has a lot of I'm realizing a common theme here is a lot of the people in this show are definitely a product of their raising and the environment and the world that they were in. But that's life. Mrs. Kim is funny as hell. She's kind of like Emily in that I definitely feel like she didn't get to her full potential. I feel like the writers of the show really put the characters into certain boxes and were like, well, this is where you're gonna stay, when they could have done more. Mrs. Kim, in my opinion, definitely was not the best mother, but I don't think it was malicious intent. I'm gonna put Mrs. Kim on okay. I actually might bring Emily down to okay as well. I don't know if I'm making the right decisions here. Dean. Okay. So Dean is a character that started out great, and my little ghosty boy isn't lighting up, I just noticed. Why is he not lighting up? Why is ghosty boy? There we go. That should work now. Okay, sorry. Something had just bothered me and noticed. Okay. Dean started out a certain way, and then I feel like they just completely changed who he was. Like, at first he liked books and was on Rory's level, and then they dumbed him down, made him possessive, and just... it was bad. I think we saw him in season... We saw him for a few seasons. Season 1, Dean's great, and then it just went downhill from there. So, because of that, I will put him on... Paris fucking Geller. Paris is a pain in the ass. She is problematic, but she is one of the most strong-willed people that you will ever see anywhere. I am gonna have to put Paris on S tier, my first S tier, because Paris actually really does have a lot of character development despite her situation, and she definitely started the show out as a product of how she was raised, but I feel like Paris went out of her way to become a better, different person and more understanding person, and Paris is just consistently going to be a quirky person, but it's just who she is, and I love her. Taylor fucking Dozy. Okay. So Taylor Dozy is a pill, but the thing about Taylor is he loves the town. And you also can't convince me that Taylor isn't gay. Or at least ace. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's how I feel. Okay. Thing about Taylor is he's a pill and he's a pain in the ass, but I don't think he's a bad person. I think I'm gonna put him on good tier. Good tier. Suki. Okay, immediately going to S tier. I love Suki. She warms my heart. I think the thing about this show, there are very lovable characters, very enjoyable characters, but the writers of the show were shit, and they just kind of really killed some of the characters in different ways. And but Suki overall, chef's kiss. I love her. She is adorable, lovable, just the best. She has my heart. Okay, so April. April is Luke's daughter. Some of the storylines there were weird. It was just annoying how we finally got to see Luke and Lorelai together, and then they're like, you know what? Fuck you. No. So April was a wrench in the works, but that's not really April's fault. I don't really see April as a bad character, but she's okay. She's in the middle. I think there were some very enjoyable scenes between her and Luke, and I liked her character for the most part, but I didn't like how her character just threw this huge wrench in the works. Okay. That's where I'm at with her. Christopher, go away. Go the fuck away. Go away, Christopher. He is selfish, entitled, and scummy, honestly. Christopher, I see why Lorelai kept going back. It was her first love. The thing about Lorelai is she is very immature and she had a lot of growing up to do, and this was a comfort person. Your first love is always going to be something of a comfort, but Christopher's just scummy as fuck, and I feel like he had the opportunity and the chances to be a better person, but he wasn't, and the way he comes into Rory's life and is there only when he wants to get to Lorelai is not good. It's weird and scummy, and you're just not a good dad. You're a scummy person, and I feel like they had an opportunity to write him to be a different person, but they didn't, and so go away. Miss Patty. Oh boy. Some thoughts on Miss Patty. I think she is a funny character. She brings a lot of life to the show. One of the things that stands out in my mind that really bothered me about Miss Patty was how she sexualized Dean and young boys. That was something that always rubbed me the wrong way. And I think that's just bad writing. I don't think it has to do with Patty's character. So I'm going to put her on okay. I just feel like the writers screwed Patty, and I just didn't like that vibe though with the way she would sexualize the young boys. All right, next up we have Lorelai. Lorelai is, I'm gonna put her on good for now. I feel like I love Lorelai. I love her so much, but her parenting isn't good. I feel like she's more like her mother than she realizes. There's definitely controlling aspects of her. I think that's the thing, like any show, they always paint them out to be these characters that do things not for malicious intent, but unfortunately end up being problematic. And the writers of the show just really... I don't know what they were doing sometimes. I love Lorelai. I love her so much. She'll always have a special place in my heart. But I think I'm gonna have to go with good tier. I'm sorry. All right, next up we have Jackson. I fucking love Jackson. He's over the top. He's just so extra, but so is Suki, and I feel like they belong together because of that. One thing I don't like for Suki and Jackson is the vasectomy storyline. That was so icky. That was just gross, and I pretend it didn't happen. Jackson goes on good. I love Jackson very much. Max Medina. When I first watched the show, I loved Max. I loved him so much. I was like, oh my god. Like, obviously Luke and Lorelai belong together, but Max just, I was like, he's great. But the more I've kind of watched it, the more I see some problematic aspects of Max, and the way that, like, he doesn't listen to Lorelai when she's like, no, we shouldn't date. Like, he's persistent in a problematic way, and I feel like there's a lot. Once again, I just feel like this comes down to the way that the writers wrote Max. This was also at a time when, like, people didn't see anything wrong with these things, but now we're having more open conversations about why that's not okay. I'm gonna put Max on okay. I think there are aspects of Max that I love, but there's a lot of problematic things with Max. Next up is Lane. Okay. Lane is S tier for me. I love Lane. I think she's awesome. She's a very good friend to Rory. I think that they did Lane dirty, though. The show really did Lane dirty. They did Lane dirty with who she ended up with, how her life ended up, all of that. She had so much potential, and some might say that it's realistic. I don't know. I just don't know. It felt like they dumbed her down and wrote her to fit the Gilmore Girls fantasy storyline. I don't know. To keep her there as a plot device, I guess, is what I'm looking for. And I just think that it wasn't fair. And I didn't care for the way she ended up. But despite that, I still think she is S tier. Logan Huntsberger. Boy, oh boy. I think that in a lot of ways, Logan was good for Rory. It helped her break out of her shell a little bit. I think there were good things about Logan. I think there were also many bad things, and I really don't like in the, what is it? The reunion season of Gilmore Girls, how they're doing the same old shit. I didn't like that. It just felt very icky. I also just didn't like how Logan only did the right thing because he was forced into it a lot of times. And I always hate how shows write people, like the way he asked Rory to marry him. Like, I don't like how they never even discussed it. Like, to me, if you're gonna get married to someone, you discuss it with them first. But I'm gonna put Logan on, I'm gonna put him on okay. Just okay. Luke is S tier for me. The reason that Luke is S tier for me is Luke is, yes, a grump, but he's a lovable grump. He'll drop anything to do anything for anyone. It doesn't matter who you are. He'll always do what he's got to for you. Yes, there are some annoying things about Luke, but all in all, Luke is just got my heart, and I love him a whole lot. And I feel like I need to move Lorelai up to S. I don't know. Okay. Rory. Okay, I'm gonna put Rory on good as well. I think the thing about Rory, and I feel like a lot of people are very annoyed with how Rory was when she got to college and stuff, but the thing is, it feels actually pretty realistic. She's a young, sheltered woman. And being a young, sheltered woman, you're gonna make crazy-ass mistakes and make bad decisions. I also don't think that she should have ever been a journalist. That didn't feel right. It didn't fit Rory. I feel like they could have done something different with her. I feel like they had this idea for Rory as a character from the get-go, but they didn't execute it in a way that was believable with her going into that field, if that makes sense. Might be controversial, but that's how I feel. Michelle, I'm going S tier. And that, I just love Michelle, okay? I just do. I love him so much. I love him. I just do. Kirk, you annoying bastard. He goes on good because Kirk is the kind of person, you know what? No, I'm going we're good. I love that he's in the show. I think he's amazing, even though the first episode he was a completely different person that no one knew, but I'm glad Kirk ended up becoming a series regular. I love him. Sherry, go away. The reason I want Sherry to go away is she was sort of really bad about overstepping her bounds, but also she abandoned her kid. You don't do that. As a person that was abandoned by their parents, you don't do that. It doesn't matter. You had the child. You gotta be there. Show up and be a good parent. Marty. So, I'm putting Marty on go away. The reason I'm putting Marty on go away is because I liked him, and then they just shit the bed with his character, and he got weird and creepy, and it just... Ugh. That's all I'm gonna... Ugh. Okay, Jason Styles. How do I feel about Jason Styles? I'm just gonna put him on okay. I don't feel like he was... I feel like him and Lorelai did work together somewhat well, and I feel like I liked seeing them together, but they definitely didn't belong together, and he definitely got shafted by Richard, which we will get to. I think I'm gonna move Emily up to good, by the way. I've decided. I think I'm gonna move Emily and Mrs. Kim up there. Okay. Next up, we have Alex. So Alex was one of Lorelai's boyfriends. I don't know what happened. I thought he was really cute, and they dated for a while, and then he just disappeared and was no longer in the picture. But I liked him a lot for Lorelai. I thought he was cute. I'm gonna go with okay. Just because we didn't get to see much more of him. I want Zach to go away. I'm sorry. I just do. If any, I'll put him in because I just really didn't like his character, and Lane should have ended up with Dave Rogowski. That's just how I feel. Zach is annoying. I do think there were some funny things, but Alright, next up we have Liz. I'm gonna go Liz is a terrible mother to Jess, never really, in my opinion, makes up for it, and then gets with this guy and has a kid with him, and all of a sudden wants to be a good parent, and I don't know. Alright, next up is Doyle. I'm gonna put Doyle on good. I love Doyle. He is perfect for Paris. They belong together for all of eternity, and even though they broke them up in the reunion season, I think they belong together, and I think they'll get back together. Last but not least is Richard Gilmore. Richard is going into okay. The reason that Richard is going into okay is for some of the shittier things that he's pulled. I think at heart, Richard is a good person, but I feel like they just wrote him kind of shitty in a lot of ways, too. I just feel like they could have done better with a lot of the characters. You can be realistic while also not writing bad characters, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just torn. I'm torn on Richard. I really am. There are moments where I just absolutely love him, and then moments where he could have chosen those moments to be a good dad and a good person and a good partner, and he didn't. So that's why Richard is going into okay. Well, I think I'm actually going to stick with this. My S tier is Paris, Suki, Lane, Luke, and Michelle. Good, Jess, Taylor Dozy, Lorelai, Jackson, Rory, Kirk, Emily, Mrs. Kim, and Doyle. Okay is April, Patty, Max, Logan, Jason, Alex, Richard Gilmore. Is Tristan, Dean, Zach, and Liz. I feel like there's a common theme there, but And go away is Christopher, Marty, and Sherry. Let me know your thoughts on my idea for the different characters and who you would have had in your S tier. Also, who is your favorite character in the show? Do you think Lorelai should have ended up with Luke? Are you team Jess, Dean, Logan? Let me know. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch you guys next time. Bye, bestie.